Welcome to all of you for the sixth open house discussion or session that we are having. As you know, the first 5 sessions are mostly focused on PHR. We've covered that in fair amount of detail. Today, we will be discussing Open Health Services Network, an easy introduction to that today, and then it'll build up over the next few sessions and we'll go into a lot more details later. Today is a special session because we have with us Pramod Verma. And many of you know we call Pramod the Royal Architect of India. Every digital public infrastructure that is being built out, not just by iSPIRT, but beyond, Pramod has been absolutely pivotal to making it happen. And so a very warm welcome to you, Pramod, from both my side and Siddharth's side.
Thank you, Grace. A pleasure to be here. Yeah, wonderful to see all the sessions coming along.
So as usual, a very quick iSPIRT overview. iSPIRT is a fully Indian non-profit, technical think and do tank. Our central idea is that India's hard problems can only be solved with a jugalbandi between private innovation and digital public infrastructure. And it takes a long kind of effort to bring everything to life. So therefore you need to take 20 years, 30 years kind of a view. And usually in a society, there are think tanks like iSPIRT that take that view. There can be universities that take that view, driverless cars. For example, CMU has done that. Research labs can take that view. So that is there. And then they work with other players, policymakers, long-term providers of risk capital like VCs, and the people who are the doers. They are the most important. And the doers are either very excited about the change, or they are somewhat hesitant about the change. So we classify them as incumbents or challengers. And all this work that iSPIRT does, and everybody that you see on the call today and earlier, are really volunteers, and we are really no greed, no glory volunteers. So the value that gets created by solving that problem, iSPIRT does not partake in that value, either as individual volunteers, or even as iSPIRT, as a think tank. So for us, this is a labor of love, and we want to see thriving India, a product nation in the future as we go forward. So really, as I said, today's discussion is again about health stack and why health stack. And we are trying to crack a problem related to India's health system. If you look around world's health systems, they deliver one, at best, two of these attributes. They either end up being low cost or high access or good quality. Nobody delivers all three. So our effort here is to bring all three to life. And to do this, we need this jugalbandi innovation architecture that I spoke about a little while back. And in terms, which means we got to do a bunch of things. Our plumbing layer will help improve efficiency of the delivery system, care delivery system that we have. And also some of the discussion that we have with OSHN today will expand capacity, because it allows new players to connect into the ecosystem with great ease. We obviously need to realign the incentives so that everything is focused on the individual, the patient. If it's to do with care, if recovery and hospitalization, but the individual who is not yet a patient, if it is to do with wellness. And for us, preventive care and early detection are therefore very, very important elements. And we need to realign the incentives in the health ecosystem to shift it to encouraging early detection and preventive care. And finally, as you know, India is embarked on a very big effort to provide good health care to about 400 to 500 million people as part of Ayushman Bharat. And Ayushman Bharat is therefore a good place for experimenting some of these ideas as we go forward, because they cater to what we call as India 3 most of the time. So, so you've seen this slide many times. We continue to make some improvements in it as we go along. But the purpose of the slide today is really, you already know about the 3 layers, so I'm not going to go through them all over again. All I want to focus on is this top portion that you see here, which is between the teleconsultation apps and the teleconsultation service providers. This interface, that kind of, this whole ecosystem is what we are going to be talking about today. And that is mediated by this open health services network. And Sid and Pramod are going to cover this in more detail. Now, this is obviously not just a tech play. The tech is for a purpose. What is that purpose? And that purpose is that we want to build trust in teleconsultation. And as we have spoken earlier, that has 2 elements to this. It has an element related to standards of care, and we've talked about registry, doctor registry, provider registry in that context. The fact that you can have longitudinal personal health records, that travel with you no matter which provider you go to, are all contributors to standards of care. Protocol server, which will come in the future, will contribute to this in a big way. But today's discussion is related to another aspect of trust that is important, and that is transparency and transparent business rules. And that is in some sense mediated by OSHN, and also enforced in a sense, or driven by auditable money flows. We've in the past talked about e-vouchers, and we'll cover those in more detail in the coming sessions. And why is that important? Because only when you know the flow of money do you know where the flow of incentives are. And so therefore it is a very important part of this. And if we are able to do this successfully, then we think teleconsultation would be trusted. It would be paid, because we think if value is being delivered to the individual should pay, or somebody on their behalf should pay, and somebody who represents them should pay. We don't believe so much in the advertising model or the kickback model for making telemedicine or teleconsultation free. We think a healthy system would be one where the best providers are the ones that bubble up to the top, and they begin to therefore rely on teleconsultations, and they begin to feel that teleconsultation offers them access to better doctors faster and cheaper than would be the case if they were to go for a physical OPD. And then that opens up the large market. As you know, teleconsultation basically touches a sliver of the Indian population. Today, it is very, very small, and it has the potential to grow very, very substantially over a period of time. So we are, in a way, setting the foundation for all of that as we go forward. So this is really what today is about. So I'm going to hand this over to Sid and Pramod. So Sid, I think you are going to flash the slides. So over to you. So I'm going to stop sharing here.
Thanks, Sharad. I'll just share my screen. So if we look at it in the old world of payments, it was extremely painful, right? So you had to be on the same application as your peer or your merchant. And that's just not possible. In a country of over 1 billion plus people, 100 different languages, 20,000 plus dialects, it's not possible to create a uniform experience that works for everyone. So essentially in UPI, we unbundled the key services and then unified it. So consumers, I as a consumer could use the best app for me. The merchant could use the best app for them. So I may use PhonePe, you may use Google Pay, Sharad may use Beam, and we can all transact with each other. And each of us may have our own bank account provider on the back end. right? And as a result, I can, while using PhonePe, pay to a small Kirana store that's actually using BharatPe. So UPI essentially unified this disparate fragmented ecosystem while allowing each end user to access the network through an app that was completely personalized to them, solving their own unique needs. So if we look at the world of health services, it's in a very similar situation. There's a deep divide between public health services and private health services. And so the question is, how do you bridge the quality often provided in private care with the trust that's provided in public health services today? And how do you bring choice to the consumer across a range of health services beyond allopathy as well? So it could be Ayurveda, yoga, and other Ayush related healthcare models that are in existence. And this becomes even more important given the transition that's underway in India from most of our disease burden shifting from infectious diseases, COVID being an exception, to actually non-communicable diseases like obesity, heart disease, diabetes, and others. Many of which can't be cured but are often patient controlled. So therefore, using a simple example of teleconsult, could I use the best consumer application of my choice on one end and receive a teleconsultation from the best doctor most relevant for my condition around me, whether it might be an allopathic doctor all the way in Bombay, or it might be an Ayush doctor that's situated in the same locality that I am. All three of whom are using different applications that service their own need. So OSHN essentially brings this together. So it acts as a bridge between providers on one end, health service providers on one end, and consumers on the other. And providers could be part of an existing network already, or they may be part of a new network to join in as part of OSHN. The key principle, I would say there were two key principles underlying OSHN. One is the principle of interoperability. So the OSHN gateway that you see, which is essentially intermediating the flows between the providers and the end consumers, the OSHN gateway will guarantee interoperability to every end user application and every telehealth services network that conforms to the standard. The second principle is that of non-discrimination. So as an individual, when I access an end user app and it then returns back services from different networks via the gateway, the end user app cannot discriminate between those service offerings. So it cannot rank order them in any preferential manner. So these two principles of interoperability and non-discrimination are the key underlying principles behind OSHN and the way it's designed. What I'll now do is I'll run you through a quick flow using the OSHN protocol, and then in the subsequent slides is a link to the API specifications that you can go through in more detail and come back to us if you have any questions. So on the left-hand side, you have what's called an end user application. This is an application that the consumer interacts with, short formed as an EUA. On the right-hand side, you have HSPs, health service providers, and there may be multiple. These are the networks that say a doctor is a part of, right? So Dr. A could be part of HSP1 and use a particular application. Dr. B could be part of HSP2 and use a different application. And then the OSHN gateway intermediates the flows across this ecosystem. So to start off, I as a consumer come in, I register or sign up, and then my intent is for this particular condition that I have, I want to search for the most relevant doctors, and the search can be, the search can have a number of factors related to location, quality, price, time/availability, and so on, all of which can feed as parameters into the search query. So you pass an intent of you having to have this consultation with those respective parameters. And this intent, then intermediated through the gateway, gets sent across to different HSPs. And each HSP is complying with the standardized OSHN API. Depending on availability of the doctor on the respective HSPs, they can respond back to that intent query. When they do respond back, a list of all of those available doctors, either available now or available at some near point in the future, is shown to the user. And the user then selects the best doctor. Once the user selects the doctor, and he will then go on to confirm that consultation. And as part of this, there may be a payment associated with it or a booking, and that through a respective payment gateway can be completed. Once the individual confirms the consultation, that same is notified to the respective HSP, in this case, HSP1. The doctor on HSP1 is what the individual chose. And the individual also gets notified of the confirmation through SMS and other modes of communication. In certain conditions, where the doctor may require a pre-consultation to be done, which are, say, a set of questions that are asked to the individual to diagnose the condition a lot quicker, so that it saves the doctor's time when they participate in the consult, can then be asked to the individual, and the individual on the end user app will answer all of those questions, and then that forms a part of the clinical notes of the doctor. At the respective time, the doctor can then initiate the consultation. This happens through any multimedia channel. It may be chat, messaging, voice over IP, video, and so on. And OSHN does not attempt to standardize any of those channels. So whichever are your multimedia communications provider, one may continue to use that to facilitate the interaction between the user and the HSP. And when the consultation is then completed, the doctor will proceed to update the prescription, and the same then gets shared as a consultation summary with the individual. So this is broadly an end-to-end flow of OSHN now bringing together the consumer on a particular end user app and two different providers that are using two different apps on their backend together for one common teleconsultation. You can go through the APIs out here. So in this link, it has detailed APIs for the consumer-facing application, the gateway, as well as the health services provider. And you can send in your questions on the following link. And in the next session, we'll take in those questions and do a further deep dive into the technical flows. That's it from my end. Pramod, is there anything else that you'd like to add in?
Pramod, it will also be good. This concept of open networks is also true. Ironically, we have another OCEN session, Open Credit Enablement Network session later today. And that is a manifestation of the same idea. But this is a broader idea that Beacon is trying to bring to life in many other sectors, where iSPIRT does not have involvement. Could you share a little bit about that and, the broader concept, and why do you think this is so important for health that we're focusing on?
Okay, yeah. Thanks, Sid. Thanks, Sharad. What we have seen is that if you look at our digital infrastructure, and iSPIRT has been part of that journey, and many others, even a non-iSPIRT organizations, been part of India's journey of digital infrastructure. The underlying infrastructure components are non-transactional in nature. So mostly identity as infrastructure, digital signature as infrastructure, DigiLocker, for example, as an infrastructure. They are not transactional in nature. They are actually more foundational, or registries. And I think previous open houses have covered health registries and so on that are being part of national health stack. And many different stacks, non-health stacks also have similar registries. The GST and asset tax registry, taxpayer registry. I know Aadhaar itself is a resident registry and so on. So these underlying identity and registry layers, trust layers, and core systems are the first one that sort of gets done because they are the part of the root foundational systems. The second layer of that is what we call engagement layer. In the engagement layer, we need transactional interfaces. And there are two ways to look at transaction interfaces. One, you sort of completely open up the market and say, feel free to create transactional platforms, nothing wrong, right about it. It's one way of doing it. And marketplace brings out various platforms that enables transactions. But with UPI is a transactional layer. It's money exchange, right? A layer. And DEPA, which is the data empowerment architecture, which iSPIRT has been leading the thinking in the country and now part of our larger data protection framework itself, is a data exchange infrastructure, right? But there are a lot more transactions that you and I, and as part of our country, does. And at the end of the day, why do we care about transactions? Because that is where the real solutions and products and services are available, made available to the large population. So if buying an insurance or buying something or obtaining access to a service or access to a product is limited to India 1, as iSPIRT used to categorize India 1, India 2, and India 3, and India 3 is really the bottom of the pyramid that sort of depends fully on the government systems to sort of depend fully there. But India 2 is actually quite a large India 2, aspirational young India 2, and it's in a lot of work iSPIRT has been leading, and a lot of others have been leading in this aspect is also the idea of bringing the transactional layer through which access to products and services are available in an affordable and choiceful way to the 80% who are not part of the India 1. And if you look at buying insurance, our iSPIRT's work with SEBI to open up mutual fund, to sachet mutual fund to everyone, these are all part of the transactional layers being opened up. But when you open up transactional layer, for what? Towards accessible and affordable access to products and services for 80% of India 2, if you have to do that, how do we do in an open network fashion that allows providers on one side and applications and discovery applications on one side to come together and speak a common protocol for such discovery of product services and subsequent booking and confirmation, cancellation, and grievance handling of sort. And a sister organization of sort, an independent organization called Beacon is also an open source organization of building a bunch of open specification for other domains. And part of Health Stack, the same idea is being now extended to say, how does access to care is made affordable and choiceful way to a large population. And to do that, we believe, iSPIRT believes, a lot of us believe, that an open network protocol needs to be laid with an open participation business model that aligns everybody's incentive so that 1 plus 1 doesn't become 2, it becomes 11, and a massive amplification opportunity opens up, eventually benefiting the large population of 300 million people who are aspirational, smartphone enabled, internet enabled, wanting to participate in this transaction. So I think you can read up. These links are good enough for you to go read up, and as technologies, you can relate to many things that internet itself was enabled us, what HTTP did to us, SMTP did to us, and so on as open protocol. And in this specific session, we'll focus on OSHN per se, where access to care is being opened up at scale.
So, another question that's coming up, Sid, if you could go to slide 12, because it will be easier to pose that question, is, Sid, the question is that, does OSHN apply only to teleconsultation, or will it also apply to other classes of providers?
So do you want me to answer that, or?
Either of you could do that.
Yeah. So
yeah, you can answer that for me. Yeah.
So again, I think there are two layers of it. There is a technology layer, which is the open protocol. I think the technology layer is being carefully designed to be extensible, evolvable, knowing that access to care requires beyond teleconsultation. So the protocol layer will allow us to evolve, to add more providers who are physical providers, non-teleconsultation providers, and so on, to hook up to this grid and participate in terms of discovery, booking, and engaging in transactional layer, for sure. That we will definitely allow it. But I think it's any country like ours requires a series of mini steps that need to be made to go where we want to go. I think that's why I think Sharad set it up in the beginning, saying that our viewpoint is about 10 years plus, right? So it takes a view that takes us evolvability in nature. Protocol is designed to allow other non-teleconsultation providers to hook up, but we will evolve with the protocol, and we will definitely evolve the business models, incentive structures, and network activation at appropriate time. And Sharad can maybe say a few words about why these two layers are purposely decoupled, loosely decoupled, so that both can evolve independently and carefully to align everybody's incentives.
So one other question that is coming up is, who provides the OSHN gateway? Is iSPIRT going to be running the gateway? So that the answer is simple. iSPIRT will not be running the gateway. There will be providers of the gateway. For example, in PHR, where you have the consent gateway, there are multiple providers. NHA is one provider. And then there are private players. Swasth Alliance, for example, is another provider of that gateway. I would imagine something similar would happen for OSHN gateway as well. Pramod and Sid, is that a fair assumption?
Yeah. Neither iSPIRT nor Beacon, we are all building only specifications, open specifications, API specifications, and security layers, and so on. Market players will set up gateways as well. And the gateways are very lightweight gateways. So think of like, sort of next generation of DNS of sort, right? So there will be gateways and registries that are actually connecting, and there will be multiple. None of these are, there is no fully decentralized architecture. There is no central system per se to connect in. But there will be network participation rules, because healthcare is a regulated domain, quite like payment, and trust of the, I think Sharad clearly said that telecommunication today is not at all used, very small percentage used, and most people don't even know what the other person. So a lot of trust has to be built in. So there will be a careful navigation of these rules, how to bring trust to the consumer by the provider. Other than that, it is generally an open protocol, decentralized, fully decentralized.
So looking at the questions, there's still a lot of questions about PHR, about schema standardization, about the consent manager. Does consent manager have visibility to the data? The answer to that is no, and things like that. So we are going to come back to PHR, as we go forward. We have another open house tomorrow where we cover some of the business model related items of PHR. And maybe, we can throw in some answers to these questions as well. What we wanted to do today was merely introduce the OSHN to you as a concept, because it's a very new concept. And, have you play around a little bit with the APIs that have been shared, and then return back to this in our open house session that we plan to have on the 8th of August. So that is really what we had planned for today. I'll request Sid and Pramod, if they have any closing comments, to go ahead and share them, and then we will close this up.
No, from my side, I think it was just an introductory session, I suppose. And then you will be doing more, and the specs are all already open there. And I think iSPIRT is sharing the, I don't know how iSPIRT is sharing the, feedback on the API itself. I think there will be some process and Slack channels and so on, as many of these APIs have them, and they will be opened up soon. I suppose Sid can maybe talk about that. But it's only the starting. I agree. It's going to evolve rapidly.
Yeah, nothing else to add from my end, Sharad.
All right. Thank you so much. This was short and sweet. Back to Karthik.
So we will be summarizing the event along with the registration form for tomorrow. So tomorrow we have a session on PHR business use cases. People who are interested, they can sign up. They will receive a Zoom link separately. That's it from my end. And those who still have questions and would like to get answered even later, so they can go ahead and fill in the form, the Q&A form. We will take it up in the next session.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.